Life can seem pretty easy when you're a master vampire like Bella Taibon. But what happens when you have some very real weaknesses that are suddenly up front and center? Can you survive with all the enemies you've made as the moon covers the sun and you have nowhere to hide?
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and I am so happy to be here today with you all as we take another journey over to Strickfield for a little celebration of an eclipse. Now, I know a real eclipse is coming up in just a few short weeks, but we like to be a bit ahead of the curve here at Weekly Spooky. So we're going to get to it in just a moment, but before we get to the story, I want to say thank you so much for listening to the show. As we enter spring and summer, many people don't want to listen to chilling terror tales, but you, my dear listener, are a diehard. Oh yes, just like Bella Taibon herself, your love and commitment to the spooky simply will not die. And I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. And if you love what we're doing and want to support it in a very direct way, just go to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month, you support the show directly and get 2 bonus shows every 30 days. In fact, right now we're getting ready to wrap up a new series called The Weekend by Rob Fields, all about a group of teenagers who decide to go camping on an abandoned campground. And they find less fun in the sun and more vengeance and blood. So make sure to check that out at weeklyspooky.com. And if you want to help the show but don't have any money to spare, that's okay. A very helpful thing you can do for us that doesn't cost you any money is go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. It helps other spookies find the show. But now, my spookies, the moon is moving across the sun, and it's time we check in on Bella Taibon. And we'll do that right after these quick words. Mortal Eclipse by Rob Fields. I was sound asleep when I felt someone shaking me awake. Einstein! I yawned and blinked a few times. Then I fully opened my eyes to see my older brother. Martin? What do you want? I grumbled. I can't find Bella anywhere. I want to talk to her. She never came home last night. I worked some overtime at Mirren Automotive and didn't get home until late, Martin explained. Bella wasn't here. I looked all over the house for her. I even went out back. I figured she was out fighting a vampire or something. I woke up a little while ago and she's not here. She doesn't have a smartphone, so I can't text her. I groaned. Well, what do you want me to do? Martin fired back. You can help find her, you little snippet. This was the sort of thing you never saw between Martin and me. Until now. Martin and I truly didn't get along with each other. And for good reason. Still, after hearing Martin, I was worried about Bells. I didn't back down from Martin. Okay, I'll change clothes and go out and look for her. Does that make mean Martin happy? I yelled. Martin wanted to grab me, but he knew better. Instead, he took a deep breath. You know Bella better than I do. You know where she frequents. I gave Martin an odd look. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe there's a reason why Bells doesn't want to talk to you? For the record, she knows you're sleeping around with other girls. I pointed at him. You two aren't even in a relationship. I folded my arms in front of me. Even though you're working so many hours and keeping up with your college work, you're still out causing trouble. Martin pointed right at me. Don't you test me! I unfolded my arms and tightened my fists. Fuck you! It's because of you that I'm sick! Martin got diffused fast and backed off. He could never look me in the face after what happened that night. Martin sighed. Einstein, I just want to talk to Bella. As long as she's staying here with you, I think it's the least she can do. We both know Bella's never liked being here in Strickfield. I'm beginning to wonder if she finally... I untightened my fists and got out of bed. I went to my closet and gave it a quick once-over. Martin quickly came up right behind me. What are you doing, you little snippet? Martin always called me a little snippet whenever I frustrated him, which made me laugh a little inside. Martin was only caring for me out of obligation. Far from that, there was no love lost between us. I quickly turned to Martin and glared at him. No, Bells didn't leave Strickfield, at least not for good. Her things are still here. I pointed to the floor in the closet. See those? Those are her 80s Reebok Pump men's basketball shoes. Belle would never just leave those behind. I had to think about it a little bit. But you're right, Mean Martin. He pointed right at me. You don't get to call me that. Fuck you, I snap again. He seemed ready to grab me again, but he backed off. Yeah, he knows better. Then I talked to him. It is strange that Bells isn't home on a Saturday morning. She usually comes and shakes me awake so we can go have breakfast at Denoyer's Grill. I looked Martin in the face. Fine. I'll change clothes and go look for her. I have some ideas on where to find her. I pointed at him. Who knows? Maybe if you're lucky, neither of us will come back home. I work all those hours for you, Einstein, he snapped. It's how I afford your medications. He pointed right at me. You better start showing me some fucking respect. You don't deserve any goddamn respect, I snapped back. Now get out of my room. Martin growled and finally left. I changed into regular clothes and grabbed my smartphone. I called for an Uber since I couldn't drive and waited. This road trip was probably going to be expensive, but I was willing to pay it. Anything to get away from Mean Martin at that point. I had the Uber driver take me to some of the usual haunts Bells and I frequented. Bells wasn't at any of them. I even looked at Denoyer's Grill. The place was packed full of Strickfield High students who were having breakfast. I didn't see any sign of Bells, though. I didn't think I would. You'd think she'd probably be here, especially with that monstrous appetite of hers. See, Bells is a master vampire, but a really unique version of one. She's the only one of her kind who can walk in the daylight. She has many master vampire strengths and none of their weaknesses. She's also the one vampire I know who doesn't drink blood. No, she has to eat an incredible amount of food in order to satisfy her immense hunger. Martin was right about Bells and Strickfield. She hated the village, but Denoyer's Grill was the one place she truly loved here. People loved the food at Denoyer's, but Bells really loved it. I had no doubt that Denoyer himself made money off her since she started eating there almost regularly. But no, Bells wouldn't have come here on Saturday morning without me. I mean, us having breakfast here on Saturday morning was a weekly ritual for us. The driver pulled away from the diner. I had him take me to other places where Bells and I would hang out. I even went down the big hill near the Castalia River to the cave where we'd go sometimes to be alone. If anything, Bells loved the view there. You could see the big river and even some of Strickfield University. I think that was why we went to a lot of places off the beaten path. Just her and me. She loved her views. And then I suddenly realized that I knew where Bells was. There was one more place that suddenly came to mind. The one place that had the view. You want to make some serious money? I asked the driver. What you got in mind? He asked quickly. It was dark when I reached the very top floor of the tallest building in the huge megalopolis of Shore City. It was night, it was chilly, and it was quite windy up here. I came out onto the roof through the doorway and found Bells there. We first came to this place just before we left back in June, after my falling out with Grandma Donnerly. Took you long enough, Einie, Bells said without even looking my way. Bells? Is everything okay? I asked in concern. Martin wanted me to find you. Fuck him, she replied. I got my own problems. What problems? You're scaring me. She turned and faced me. Something was quite different about Bells now. Usually she was practically naked. I mean, she had to keep enough of her skin exposed so she didn't become too claustrophobic, which was part of her vampirism. But now she was wearing some of my clothes. A pair of jeans, a Strickfield High t-shirt, normal shoes, and even her varsity jacket that the Strickfield High cheerleaders wore. I was wearing mine. She didn't look the least bit ready to shred her clothes. She even had sunglasses on. I just looked at Bells. Are you okay? I mean, are you really okay? As Bells came close to me, I could tell she'd been crying. Then she pointed to the moon. I didn't mention this. I wasn't sure if you'd heard about it or not, but we got a solar eclipse going on. This eclipse is the single biggest event to someone like me, Einie. Oh, I know about the solar eclipse. I pointed to my glasses to show my lenses had transitioned dark. But what you don't know is that the solar eclipse is the one time where I become as close to human as I can possibly be. During the solar eclipse, I'm completely powerless. I can be hurt and killed like an ordinary human being. Since I still have Thornton Gillian's blood in my body, I found I'm still immortal for sure when it comes to my aging process, and I still have to eat a ton of food. I hit an all-you-can-eat buffet before I came here. You could have stayed at the house, Bells, I pointed out. Why come all the way to Shore City for the eclipse? Because this is the one time I'm most vulnerable. You and I both know Martin's been showing his true colors as of late. I wouldn't put it past him to try and take advantage of me as a human. I still have my training, but Martin would piss me off to the point where I'd want to kill him. No, Einie, it's better this way. We both leaned against a wall and just looked out at the seemingly endless array of lights and huge bridges that spanned the big river. I love it up here, Einie, Bells told me. It's so beautiful up here. I can't think of a more perfect place to wait out the eclipse. You're right, Bells. It is beautiful up here. I glanced over at her. You know, I really envy you sometimes. You can see the world over on account of you never getting old. Bells took and held my hand. To be honest, being a fucking vampire wasn't something I ever wanted. Unfortunately, I can't give this shit back. All I can do is savor the one fucking eclipse that can make me almost human again, if even for just a little while. What, you'd rather be dead? I asked with surprise. Bells squeezed my hand a little. I should be long dead in my grave with my fucking kids continuing the Taibon line. She started crying softly again before she got mad. But no! I gotta both be a fucking immortal and the only Taibon in existence. Then she suddenly screamed out into the night. Fuck you, Thornton Gillian! If it's the last motherfucking thing I do, I'll kill every last goddamn one of your kind. When she calmed down, I glanced her way. I'm so sorry, Bells, I whispered. Bells shook her head slowly. Don't be fucking sorry. You didn't make me a monster. She glanced at me now. You're such a mousy little shit, like your cousin Madeline. But I've really come to fucking love you. Anyway, trust me on this. You don't want to be envying me. Being like me ain't all it's cracked up to be. I eat more food than a fucking billy goat, and I want sex all the time. I even started fucking people at school. I loved to fight when I was immortal. Now that I'm tainted with Thornton Gillian's blood, I love it that much more. With all that comes with being me, you'd be very high maintenance. I really didn't know what to say to Bells. She smiled a little. Don't worry, Einie. You're definitely safe. Since I don't drink blood, that means I can't sire anybody. Bells and I just looked at each other. Then I got a text from Martin and showed it to her. Should I tell Martin I found you and you're okay? She raised an eyebrow. We both know you don't want to. Drop the act. I know you two don't get along. I know you hate him. I nodded. So much. He's the reason I'm sick. I replied to Martin and lied about finding Bells. When he demanded to know where I was, I shut the phone off. Bells put an arm around me and gave me a gentle hug. I put an arm around her and hugged her back. We were silent for a long moment before I asked, Okay, Bells, what do you want to do while we wait out this eclipse? Before Bells could answer, someone else answered for her. I've got a great idea. How about the two of us beat the two of you to a bloody pulp before we kill both of your fucking asses? Bells and I were both surprised to see. No motherfucking way, Bells cried. I fucking paralyzed you two last winter. We didn't know which girl was which since they were identical twin sisters, but they were on either side of us. They were wearing completely different cheerleading outfits from the ones that Bells and I wore at Strickfield High. They were black with red trim and consisted of a miniskirt with an athletic top. In fact, their tops both had a word embroidered on them. The twin coming toward Bells had bitch, while the other coming toward me had vixen. They both had long, wavy blonde hair and glowing red eyes. They were Alyssa and Allie Mirren. Bells fought those two and their cheerleading squad back in January. They were a coven of witches who were trying to turn themselves into vampires, using something called Old Bloodstone. That's old with an E on the end. As far as we both knew, they hadn't completed their transformations into vampires. To show us that they had, they vamped out and raised their claws. The Vixen twin laughed at Bells' comment. Guess we got the last laugh, huh? The bitch one smiled an evil smile. Here's what you didn't know. We, that is Alyssa and me, took the power from the other cheerleaders ourselves. Right, Alyssa agreed. We figured you'd catch on to us somehow. Yeah, we learned who you were, Bella Taibon. We put some extra old bloodstone inside our shoe soles. We were able to complete our transformations into full vampires after all. We were coming to look for you two, Allie growled. We owe you for what happened back in January. And what did we just hear? Alyssa squealed with delight. That you, Bella Taibon, are powerless during this eclipse. Allie's anger turned to a squealing delight now, which means we can have all the fun we want with you before we drink you up.
Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
Run, Einie! Bells yelled. The two of us both turned to the door and escaped through it. I quickly pulled it shut behind us and locked it. As we were at the bottom of the steps, we heard the door being ripped away. We can't outrun them, Bells told me. Suddenly, one of the twins was right in front of Bells to make sure she ran into her fist. Bells fell flat on her back. Then the other twin had punched me right in the face to send me falling on top of her. She really is powerless, Allie shrieked with delight. She was the one wearing bitch on her athletic top. Taibon has a nosebleed that won't stop. Alyssa came up right next to her. And if she can bleed like that, that means we can kill her. Bells sat up. Yeah, play with your new fucking powers while you got 'em. I may not be at full strength right now. I was amazed to see Bells still show off her sinister, sexy smile. Suddenly, Bells struck. She quickly spun and got to her feet. Then she threw some kind of powder at both of them. The Mirren twins screamed and shrieked as they covered their faces. Bells quickly grabbed my hand and pulled me to my feet. We gotta go, Einie. I shrieked as Bells and I ran through some hallways. Bells led me down one stairway, into an elevator to go down a couple of floors, down another stairway. Are they going to catch us, Bells? I cried. Okay, yes. I was scared as holy hell right now. Not that easily, but they probably will. Bells said truthfully. I threw some powerful garlic essence in their faces, Graham's family recipe. Their reaction confirms they're full vampires. It doesn't look like they've mastered their new powers fully. You expected those two? I asked. No, but when you have enemies out there, other vampires, you damn fucking sure better be prepared. Bells and I managed to make it down a total of 23 floors before we were both finally taken down by 2 wolves. As we turned around to fight the wolves, they both transformed back into the Mirren twins. Then they both lifted us up and threw us across the room. We both crashed into cubicles, knocking over the walls. I know I ended up flat on my back on a desk. I didn't see where Bells landed. I didn't have time to clear the stairs that I was seeing because a twin snatched me up and threw me against some more cubicles. I cried out as I knocked over some more walls. When I landed, it was on the floor by a doorway. Bells landed right on top of me shortly after. This is so much fun, Allie, Alyssa cheered. She was wearing the Vixen top. I know, and we're just getting started, Allie replied. Then she picked up Bells. Come on, Taibon. Fight us. Not so tough without your powers, are you? Bells gave Allie her sexy smile. You mean you fucking airheads haven't figured it out yet? Being powerless doesn't mean I'm helpless. Bells suddenly reached into her hair, pulled out 2 vials of a clear liquid, and threw them at each vampire. The Mirren twins screamed when the vials broke on their foreheads. They had burns and boils where the liquid had splashed them. It's fucking holy water! Alyssa yelled. Bells quickly yanked me to my feet. Run, Einie! We both got out of those offices. Bells again held my hand as she guided me through stairways for so many floors and then into elevators. We managed to get down 11 more floors before the Mirren twins found us again. Alyssa grabbed Bells and slammed her head into a nearby water cooler with enough force to shatter the glass and get water everywhere. Then she picked Bells up and heaved her through the glass window that was outside of an office. Allie grabbed me and moved my arm behind my back, making me cry out in pain. You're going to watch as your friend gets her ass kicked before we kill her, Aileen Donnerly. But Bells wasn't going to let Alyssa just kick her around. She fought back and used some of her martial arts training that she had accumulated during her travels around the world. Bells managed to draw blood from Alyssa, but it wouldn't be long before Alyssa would heal up. If anything, Bells was keeping her dazed and off balance. Allie threw me to the floor and went to help her sister. Bells was taking on both of them now. She showed both twins that she truly knew how to fight. Bells wouldn't be able to beat both twins by just fighting alone. At least not without her powers. I knew it would only be a matter of time before Bells would be overpowered by both of them. I shrieked and leapt onto Allie's back. Allie quickly grabbed me and flipped me onto my back. Then she pointed to Bells. Stop right there! Stop right there, or so help me. I'll kill Aileen right goddamn now! Bells had no choice but to stop fighting. Alyssa got a cheap shot in on Bells that caused her bloody nose to start up again and sent her falling flat on her back. Then Alyssa uttered an incantation of some kind on Bells. After the spell was completed, Alyssa gave a weird look. Whatever spell she had tried on Bells, it didn't work. I'm sure I recited the spell right, Alyssa complained. You did, Allie assured her sister. I don't know why it's not working on her either. Bells laughed. I may be powerless during this fucking eclipse, but I still have the vampire blood in my body. Hate to tell you 2 fucking bees, but magic is the one thing that doesn't work on me. It hasn't since I was transformed. And really, you were going to try and turn me into an old crone before you killed me? She flipped them both off. Not happening. Allie screamed with rage and rushed at Bells. She managed to get out of the way, but Allie was still too quick. She managed to grab Bells' arm and twist it so that it snapped at the elbow. Bells screamed in agonizing pain before Allie kicked her in the stomach. We need to do it now, sis, Allie yelled. We have to destroy Bella Taibon now. Alyssa lifted me up and drove me through a nearby office window. I landed on my back and was covered with glass. I was in pain all over. I knew Alyssa had to be joining her sister in double-teaming Bells. I managed to pull myself to my feet to see the two of them just laying into Bells. These two weren't holding anything back. They were making Bells scream in pain as they battered and broke her. When I say they broke her, I mean they broke bone after bone. They kicked and punched her ribs. They broke her arms and legs. They shattered her knee joints. They even made her face a crimson mask. One of them even punched Belle in the face so hard that her left eye came hanging right out of its socket. Bells was flat on her back now. The Mirren twins were standing right over her. Bet you don't have anything smart to say to us now, Allie taunted. Do you? Even though Bells had been beaten and battered to the point that definitely would have killed an ordinary human, Bells still managed to cling to life. In fact, she was actually laughing at the twins. Yeah, you two can both... Then she yelled, "Suck my motherfucking dick!" Allie turned to her sister. Pull her up. Since she's still human, I say we drink her dry. Then we drink up her little friend. Sounds good to me, Alyssa purred. Bells laughed again. I wouldn't do that if I were you. But they ignored her. I tried to find something to use as a weapon, but what the hell are you going to find in a bunch of offices? I spoke too soon. I ran to an emergency fire axe and broke the glass to grab the weapon. I rushed at Alyssa to drive the axe in her back, but she turned and snatched me by my throat. Then she grabbed the axe and tossed it away. Now, you skinny little shit, you're going to watch as we drink up your friend, Alyssa declared. After that, we're going to drink you up. No! No! I wailed. Allie yanked Bells to her feet and held her from behind as she sank her fangs into Belle's neck. She gasped as Allie drank her blood. After a little bit, Allie stopped. Sis, it's delicious. I mean, it's fucking scrumptious. I saved you enough so you can feed. The twins switched places. Then Alyssa drank from Bells, who wasn't moving anymore now. I couldn't help myself and began to cry. Bells! I shrieked. I knew I was going to be next, but my heart felt really heavy at knowing that my best friend was likely dead. When Alyssa finished draining whatever was left of Bells, she threw her body off to the side, like it was a rag doll. Wow, you were right, sis. That was the best blood we've ever tasted. Then she looked at me. Aww. She mocked me by pretending to cry. Poor little Aileen, your big bad vampire bestie is all dead now. And now, for our dessert. Now, for those of you who've been following along, you know I usually don't get vulgar unless I'm really mad. Fuck you! Fuck you, you fucking bleach blonde pieces of shit! The twins both laughed scornfully at me. I mean, they laughed so hard I couldn't believe they really thought that what I screamed was funny. When they collected themselves, Allie ran her tongue up the side of my face. Oh, you're so cute. I know if I were a guy, I'd definitely fuck you good. Even if you are a fucking geek with your squeaky little mouse voice and all. But, like I said, you get to be dessert now. Alyssa grinned. Knowing these vampire sisters were going to drain me the way they drained Bells, I stood up boldly and looked Alyssa square in the eyes. Fuck you! I hope you choke on me! Bon appetit, Alyssa said to Allie. You drink first. With pleasure, Allie replied gratefully. Suddenly it began to get windy? Indoors? The twins looked puzzled. You heard, Einie, a familiar voice said that made me shriek for joy. When the Mirren twins turned and saw Bells standing there, whole again, their looks of horror were priceless. Then Bells told them, Fuck you! Bells quickly removed her varsity jacket and grabbed both of the twins, causing Allie to let me go. She threw them both at a nearby wall. Then she turned to them. 2 things. 1, Guess what's over? She raised her finger. That's right, you fucking Mirren bees. The solar eclipse is finally fucking over. Which means I'm fully restored, which means I feel just fucking fantastic. And 2, you're both gonna be quite fucking dead very shortly. The twins both stood up. Oh, what? What are you gonna do? Slaughter us? Alyssa sneered. Bells folded her arms in front of her. As much as I'd like to for how you hurt Einie, I really don't have to. As a matter of fact, a soft sigh. I already killed you both. The twins just looked at each other in confusion. Wait for it, Bells murmured. Oh yes, I'd say you both are starting to look like handmade shit right about now. My jaw dropped when it looked like the twins were starting to melt. They were both acting like it was very hot, then they started to scream in intense pain. While they were still able to hear yet, Bells explained. I told you not to drink from me, didn't I? The second eclipse ended and I was fully restored. That means the blood you drank from me also came alive in your systems. My blood doesn't allow me to utilize magic spells. At the same time, it also disenchants things with magic. Since you two were stupid enough to drink my blood, it's become the deadliest of poisons to you now. We both watched as Allie and Alyssa Mirren melted away until they were nothing more than 2 disgusting piles of goop. Even their bones and internal organs melted. In fact, all that remained were their cheerleader uniforms. Suddenly, Bells started to feel very uncomfortable herself. She kicked off her shoes and tore her clothes apart. By the time she was finished, the clothes looked like a tattered bikini. Once again, Bells was unable to wear a lot of clothing as part of her unique vampire nature. Bells turned to me. Are you okay, Einie? I hugged Bells to me tightly and began to cry. I really thought they killed you. They did, she confirmed. Looks like Thornton Gillian's blood said otherwise. Again. Looks like I'm still cursed to walk the earth as my own unique kind of master vampire. So it looks like you and me are still attached at the hip. When I finished crying, Bells suggested we get the hell out of there before the police arrived and head back to Strickfield. I snatched Bells' hand. I'm ready to tell you everything now. About what happened to me. And why I'm always sick. Bells gave me her undivided attention. I'm listening. When we got in the door, Martin was overjoyed to see that I had brought Bells back home. He shot right to her and tried to hug her, but Bells quickly knocked him on his ass. Einie told me everything, Martin, Bells said. She told me how you fucked a drunk chick at a high school party. Courtney Rickman, was it? Anyway, she promised you there'd be hell to pay when the alcohol wore off. Courtney and her friends came here to find you. They broke in and found Einie instead. Courtney's older brother raped Einie to get back at you for taking advantage of her. The problem was, he had AIDS, which meant Einie got AIDS. Bells quickly lifted Martin to his feet. I had never seen Bells so pissed off in my life. You just couldn't keep your fucking dick in your pants, she continued. And Einie has to pay for that. With her fucking life, she vamped out. Give me one good fucking goddamn reason why I shouldn't kill your ass right here and now. Bells glanced at me. Is this what Grandma Donnerly tried to tell me in June? Yes, I whispered sadly. Then I told Bells, don't kill him. He's not worth it. How can you say that? She demanded. It's not going to make me better. I'm still going to die. Killing Martin won't change anything. Bells finally dropped him and became human again. From now on, Martin, Einie's under my protection. You fuck with her, I fuck with you. You got that? Bells turned away from him. Let's get you into bed. I know you're not feeling well." I didn't argue as Bells took me to my bedroom. I felt so much better finally telling my best friend everything. I also felt safer knowing she was there. But deep down I knew Mean Martin would eventually strike again. With a vengeance. Well, my fiendish friends, I hope you enjoyed yet another installment of the Bella Taibon story. I know I did. Things are definitely getting hairy as Bella Taibon makes her way through all of Strickfield, leaving a lot of wreckage in her wake. And if you love hearing all the stories that take place in our land of Strickfield, well, make sure you head to weeklyspooky.com and sign up for our Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus shows every single month, and they're in the form of long-form series. So, you get a little installment every 2 weeks to whet your appetite. And it's exclusive to Patreon. So, head to weeklyspooky.com, support us directly, and make sure we keep bringing the spooky on the weekly. And if you want to hang out with other spookies, just go to facebook.com and punch in Weekly Spookies Tomb of Terror. It's free, it's fun, and there's a lot going on there, so make sure to head over as soon as you can. But speaking of Patreon, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters. These are folks who pay a little bit more to hear their name at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, John Callan, Bobbletopia.com, Jenny Green, Brent McCullough, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Craig, who's going to be coming out to Dayton, Ohio, to scenic Dayton, Ohio, to hang out with myself and some friends, observing the real eclipse in just a few weeks. But now, my friends, I think it's about time I settle down and get back to work because we have so much more content coming your way. Believe you me, you're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. It's better safe than sorry. So for myself, for my executive producers Rob Fields and Mark Shields, for my producer Dan Wilder and my composer Ray Mattis, I will talk at you next time. And believe me, it's sooner than you may realize.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.